Welcome to the Sweet Slumber Podcast, the good, the bad, and the sleep deprived. I'm your host, Meredith Brough. I'm here to teach you about my supportive, nurturing sleep solutions for infants and young children. We'll also be discussing the highs and lows of motherhood, what will help you feel whole and rested, and I'll explain what you can do now to help your little one thrive in every way for many years to come. I am excited to help you experience more fulfillment as a mother. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I have a wonderful guest here with me today. Her name is Helen Thompson. Hi, Helen. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Meredith. I'm delighted to be here and share this beautiful podcast with you.
Thank you. And you're coming to us all the way from Australia. So exciting.
Yeah, Northwest Tasmania.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Really far away. Well, what's interesting is that I have listeners all over the world. So there'll be people listening who are like, oh, that's my neck of the woods.
Oh, well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Helen. She's originally from a farming community in Perthshire. You can correct me. Okay. In Scotland. And since 2016, she's lived in Northwest Tasmania with her partner, Jonathan. Most of her 30 plus years working life have been spent working with both babies and children. She started her career as a childcare educator, where she gained her NNEB qualification in childcare. She first discovered baby massage in 2010 when she was looking for new ways to help babies with the usual problems such as sleep, colic, and constipation. Baby massage, although not well known in Australia, has been practiced in countries such as India for generations and is almost in their DNA. I love that. She's an advocate of a healthy lifestyle, encouraging good nutrition and habits. And over the years, she's trained in various complementary therapies, including brain gym and I don't know how to say
Kinesiology.
kinesiology. She's incorporated some of these techniques to further enhance her baby massage classes. So you guys are going to just be hearing from someone with a wealth of knowledge and experience. And I'm just so excited to hear what she has to say.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Meredith. And a lovely introduction. I really appreciate that. And I have got a wealth of experience, mainly in the childcare background, but my main focus at the moment is baby massage because I've realized over the years how valuable touch is. Touch and communication is a great way to support babies, and it also soothes them to help them to go to sleep, as you well know from what you do. So,
yeah.
and it
Appreciate it.
helps to build their confidence and bond. And if you're bonding with your baby and observing them, you're just learning so much from each other. And that's what I'm so passionate about.
That's wonderful. Yeah, there's so many ways that we can help our babies thrive. And this is such a simple, natural, instinctive thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think more parents should do it.
Yeah. Well, and I do run into lots of people who incorporate this into their routine, and they're surprised to find that there's a technique. There's a good way to do it, and there's things that you can and know to optimize what you're doing. So I think you're the pro to tell us about that. Excited to hear more. I was just with a mom the last hour or so who has 4 children under 3.
Wow.
And they're very busy. She has 2 sets of twins. And she
Wow.
was telling me, I don't know how you get kids to sit still for massage. I don't know. I bet that kids get used to it and they will sit still when they know this is part of the routine.
Well, that's a very interesting question that you've just brought up there, because I like to start baby massage when they're actually babies, because that way, not only are you introducing them to the touch and to the beautiful magic of baby massage, but you're also bonding and connecting with them. And it helps mums to build their confidence to be more connected with their babies. So when you mention a toddler stage, if they've been used to baby massage when they're younger, then they may not, they may not want to be massaged when they're toddlers. But I've heard mums saying to me, oh, thank you for teaching me baby massage. Now that my baby's a toddler, he'll actually lay the mat on the floor, go and get the oil and lie down and say, Mom, can I have a massage, please? Because they've been so used to it when they're a baby. And I mainly focus on doing doing baby massage with babies, but that's not to say that you can't do it with a toddler, because you can. I mean, a lot of people, I know a lot of my colleagues start when they're toddlers, but
Yeah.
my preference is to do it when they're a baby, for that reason that I've given you, because it helps build that bond and connection. It helps with the brain development. I could reel off so many different benefits, because there
Yeah.
are lots of different benefits to baby massage. It
That's
helps with their
wonderful.
immune system. And you mentioned in the intro about colic and constipation, because you're massaging their tummy in a clockwise direction, you're supporting your baby to get rid of all those air bubbles and all that congestion that's in the body. So it actually goes out through the bowel, out into the nappy, which is not so good for mum to change her nappy. Oh, I thought I say diaper. Sorry, you guys say diaper,
We know
and I
what you're
say
saying.
nappy. Yeah, and it goes all the way out into the nappy. So it's a bit of a hard work for mums to change your nappy, but at least it gets rid of all the bubbles and all the air bubbles, sort of preventing them from, excuse the expression, but pooing and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's important, and moms know we don't want babies having gas in the middle of the night, and we don't want them crying for these reasons of discomfort and pain. So it sounds wonderful.
You actually mentioned earlier about a routine. I mean, you can do baby massage as a routine. You can do it as a sleep routine if that's what you want to do. But I was just
Yeah.
going to say that if your baby's really small, not to give them a bath before the massage, because you can overstimulate, as you know, as a mum. If babies
Yeah.
are very young, you don't want to overstimulate them, because it just doesn't work with babies. They're just like little things, slow. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good tip for sure, because I think moms are trying it after a bath and baby doesn't like it. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but when they're older, they can probably cope with it after a bath.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about you, your work, your family, and then what brought you into this work, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I, as you said, I was brought up in Scotland, and I've always been very, very interested in children. I've always loved working with kids. I learned so much from kids. I moved to here when I was about 21, 22. I came out here, and then I emigrated in 1991, and I've lived in Australia ever since. As you said, I live with my partner, Jonathan. He is wonderful. He does all the background work of my podcast, which I will mention to you later on down the track. How I got into baby massage was because I'd been working so much with parents who came to me when I was working in childcare. Oh, my baby's this, my baby's got constipation, my baby can't sleep. I'm so distressed, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so exhausted. I really don't know what to do. And I didn't at the time have the time to sit down with parents and actually talk to them, because there were so many parents coming in, and I just had to, I felt like I was in a factory, sort of pushing the parents out so we could get on with the day with the kids, which I hated. I just got to the stage where this is not where I'm at. This is not what I want to do. So I went and did some research and found out about baby massage. And a funny story about it. I went to a class just to observe, not as a parent, but just to observe what it was about. And this mother was massaging their baby. And after about 5 minutes, after doing the tummy massage, her nappy, the baby's nappy exploded. Everything sort of came out. And
Are you
I
serious?
sort of thought, yeah, I am serious. I am serious. After doing the tummy, no, seriously, after doing the tummy massage, and this does happen occasionally, I wasn't teaching them. I was just watching a teacher doing it. And I thought, wow, this is exactly what parents have been asking me about. And
Yeah.
how can I support these parents? And I thought, wow. About a week later, I signed up in Australia to do a course. But then I recently redid my course and went on to get a diploma with a company in the UK. So that just blew my mind. Huh? It just blew my mind, and I realised how valuable baby massage can be. But not only for that, but just by how mums were bonding and connecting and really getting in tune with the babies and learning their cues and understanding what the babies wanted. And if they didn't want massage, the babies told them that they didn't want massage. And it was just, I thought, right, this is it. this is what I want to do. So that's how
I
I
love
got into
it.
baby massage.
That's awesome. And it sounds to me like there is this intuitive feeling that you needed answers and you looked until you found them and then you recognized them. So I love that because that's a big part of living the life we're meant to live is listening
Mm,
to those ideas and being aligned with our heart and then following those dreams, right?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then here you are doing this work that's so rewarding. What's your favorite thing about it? What's your favorite thing about your work that you do?
I think my favorite thing is seeing the pleasure of mums connecting with, and dads. I'm going to mention dads in this as well because baby massage isn't just for mums, it's for parents. So it is for dads as well. It's just the pleasure of seeing the parents connecting with the baby and having that magical bond with them and seeing the baby sort of looking at the mother's eyes and vice versa and the communication that they have
Yeah.
and seeing them when they're singing, because I always add singing and music, singing into my baby massage classes. I guess that comes from my childcare back.
Oh, I love
But
that.
it's just so lovely. That's my real, just seeing the pleasure that both baby and mum or dad have when they have that connection with the baby. I don't massage the babies. That it's because it's about that building that bond and that confidence with the parent. I massage an adult. I just wish I could massage the babies, but it's just that's what my favorite thing is, and seeing what reward they get as well, and they realize how baby massage can help. Because so many times people say to me, "How does baby massage help?" But when you actually see them doing the moves and massaging their babies, you just see that reward between both parent and baby. And you can see that the parents actually really appreciate the support that you're giving them. And that's what I love about baby massage.
Oh, I love it. You sound so passionate, but also you're such a kind, loving, caring person because you really care about that bond between the parents so much. And obviously that's where the joy is coming from because those are connections and bonds that you're helping facilitate. You're helping deepen those. That's really cool.
Too. It's
Yeah, yeah,
helping
yeah.
baby connect too,
Yeah.
and the softness of the skin, and it's just lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you mentioned earlier that how important touch is, and that's so true because of all those happy hormones that are released, all the little happy endorphins and what's the other hormone? I forget it.
Oxytocin.
Yes, oxytocin.
Yeah, yeah. I like to call that the cuddle hormone, actually. I mean, it is actually the love hormone. You're releasing, the babies are releasing that when you're massaging them. And it's also releasing the love, the oxytocin for the mother as well. And that's another thing that baby massage helps with. It helps release a lot of stress for both mum and baby. But there's one thing I'll say about that before we go into something else. If you are massaging your baby and you're feeling stressed, or if you're feeling worked up, take the time to relax and breathe before you massage your baby or touch your baby, because your baby will pick up your emotion so that they won't enjoy the massage and you won't enjoy the massage, because you're both picking up on each other's sort of stress. Do what you need to do just to relax and to let go of all that tension that you've got in you, because then when you touch your baby, they'll be feeling your love and you'll be releasing oxytocin and vice versa.
Yeah. So it is a bit of a stress reducer for you as well. And but I like the idea of going into it with that elevated energy so that you can get the most of it and so can the baby. Yeah, I love that.
Definitely.
Oh,
Definitely.
it's so inspiring. I'm so excited to learn from you. Yeah, when we first met, I went and looked on your website so I could find out about your courses. I
Did
want
you?
to
Wow, good.
Yes, I want to learn. So, I asked you before to tell us about some of your favorite episodes on your podcast, but before we go into that, I just want to say that I discovered Helen's podcast before our first meeting, and I was so addicted, so hooked. I don't even know how many episodes I've been on.
Lovely.
I was painting, I think, and I just listened to like, I don't know, 6 to 8 episodes, and I just couldn't get enough. But I loved learning. I loved listening to her calming voice. I loved the experts she's chosen. And so I'm really excited to talk about your podcast. So tell us about some of your favorites, and they might include like topics you loved or conversations that were enjoyable or people that you enjoyed speaking with. Please just lay it out on us.
First of all, before I say that, I'd like to say thank you for your passion about my podcast. I really appreciate your passion about it, because that's exactly, what I like to hear about the
You're
podcast. So
welcome.
thank you.
About it is that it's for parents, but it's also for practitioners. It's for experts too. And this is what I told you I was going to share it with all my students and all my clients.
Oh, I have a lot of favorites, but I've been doing it for so long. So when you asked me this, I sort of thought, gosh, help. I'm going to have to actually go back to 137 of my podcasts and see which ones I like. So I've got a list here of the ones that I've done. And one of the ones that I really, really liked, was the one I did with a mum about CST. I don't know if you know what CST is, but it's cranial sacral therapy.
Yes.
And we had a really good link, because cranial sacral therapy isn't the same as baby massage at all, but it links to supporting babies if they've got problems like colic in a different way. I highly recommend you to have a listen to it. It's releasing all that tension in the baby, and that can in turn sort of help with things like colic and the constipation, because you're releasing tension in the muscles, which can then support the baby to feel much more relaxed and much better. What else? I did the very first podcast I ever did was on teasing, and I did it with a friend of mine who I used to work with, and she's a mother of 4. And that was a really interesting one, because I was very nervous, because I'd never done a podcast in my life. And I thought, oh, gosh, right, I better do it with somebody I know.
That's a good idea.
I did it with this lady, and we talked all about her kids and how she found ways to help them with teething. I didn't mention anything about baby massage, I don't think, in that podcast. But it was all about her experience of how she approached her kids with teething. And she was telling me all about the dentists and about the kids can get gum disease when they're very little. I mean, it was very interesting. And at that stage, I was going through this and going through myths and, what the myths were, but I don't do that anymore. But that was a very interesting podcast. And I can't remember all the names of them, but the other one I did was one I did by myself. And it was triggered by what I'd experienced with somebody. I was mentioning to you earlier all about the touch and the communication that you have with your baby, and how important it is to talk to your baby whilst you're massaging them and singing and communicating with them. I was watching a grandmother talking to her baby, and it was just the grandmother was just telling her baby a story, her granddaughter a story, and the baby was responding in her own way. The baby was communicating with her, babbling and just going with her mouth and talking. And it was just so beautiful. And so many parents have sort of said to me, but how do my babies communicate with me? They can't talk. They can't do this. So it was all about how you can communicate with your babies and the results you get by talking to them, and the stages of babbling and the stages of talking, and how they learn to talk. And I love doing that one, because it was inspired by what I actually saw.
Yeah, I understand.
I'd love to have taken a video of it, but it wasn't appropriate to do, because it was very personal. It was a very personal experience. I was just watching her, and I just sort of thought, that is just so lovely. People say that babies can't talk, but babies can talk. Babies can communicate. And when I saw that, I thought, I've got to do something about this. I've got to do a podcast on this.
That's wonderful. Well, just so my listeners know, you're going to give me a list of these links, and we're going to have a page dedicated to our conversation. So don't worry, you're going to find it. You're going to be able to find this.
The other one I wanted to mention, actually, was one I did with a lady called Alison Newman. And if you type Alison Newman into the searches, you'll find it. Her background is music.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also got a bit of a childcare background as well. And we spoke about the value of music for babies, and not just babies, but for older kids as well. And we related to how music can really help children to calm down and relax. And in childcare settings, how you can have music to break up the day. For instance, if it's time to tidy up, you put on music and the kids know that music is for tidying up, and it relaxes. And that was another podcast we did. And also I've done some on trauma as well.
Yes.
Professionals who know about trauma and ways to support you if you've had trauma with birth, and how to let go of that. I think I did one with Tricia Murray. I'm just giving you these names because if I can't remember the name of the podcast, if you actually look under the name of the person, the podcast will come up.
Very good.
So
I listened to one of your interviews that was about traumatic births and what that looks like. And I loved that one because she was talking about how a traumatic birth isn't necessarily where everything goes wrong. It can just be that it didn't go the way you expected and you had a bad experience, basically. And that's so good to know because she talked about how that can affect you and how to heal from it. It was a beautiful episode.
I think that might have been Tricia Murray. This is a tip for you on my podcast. If you want to find out about a particular topic that I've mentioned, just put in that topic like trauma or baby communication, and the topics will come up. There's a search button on my website.
Okay.
But some of them I've done by myself, so it's a little bit different. But
what's amazing is just seeing the topics and the people you spoke with. It's funny because, I've created a membership site and I've offered classes to my clients at different times. And, I'm pretty proud of the people and the topics that we've covered. But when I saw your list of topics I was like, oh my gosh, I've barely skimmed the surface. This is amazing.
Oh, look, I've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it for nearly 3 years now. So it's just talking. And talking to these people, you just get so inspired. You just get that's one of the things I love about podcasting and talking to people like you and being on other people's podcasts, because you get so inspired by other people. I love your podcast. You've done a great job.
Thank you. One of the things about your episodes is these are answering questions and problems and offering solutions and insight that everybody's looking for.
Yeah, no, well, thank you. That's the aim of First Time Mums Chat. It's to support first time mums, because first time mums sometimes do get overwhelmed, and they get, we all know that they get overwhelmed, exhausted and frustrated, but if they don't have any solutions to them, it's hard. And I try not to do it too medically either. That's another thing on my podcast. I'm a great passionate about being natural and doing things with the heart and following my own intuition, but also go to a naturopath before a doctor. However, I'm not saying to my audience, don't ever go to a doctor, because I know that you've got to go to doctors for certain things, but get a different opinion. That's what my aim is to give them the opportunity to see what natural things they can do, and also what, if they need to go to a pediatrician or a doctor, at least they've got the choice. They've seen both sides.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I'm a big advocate for more than one opinion, especially when it comes to health. We want to make sure that we're on the right path and not losing time or getting worse or any of those things. I appreciate that you brought up intuition again, because I just think it's so important for us to listen to that. There's a couple of things that we talked about on our first meeting, and one of them is that I listened to some of your episodes about sleep with other sleep consultants, and I remember really noticing that I connected with you in the way you talked about how important it was that we approach sleep in a loving way and that we don't leave babies to cry. And, I'm connecting the dots here with listening to intuition and staying connected with our children. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out, that to me was a really good sign of us being able to have good conversations, because in your heart, you feel and sense what's right for babies.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've had a lot of talks with people on about sleep, and a lot of them have very different approaches. And
Yeah.
that's why I also sort of gelled with you, because I loved your name of your podcast, which is Sweet Slumber. I just
Uh-huh.
thought it was just such a lovely way of putting it, because babies do need to be, and that's another reason why I decided to get out of childcare, because when I was working with babies in a childcare centre, you didn't have time. You just basically had to give the babies their bottles and put them to bed. And you had another baby to deal with and another baby to deal with. So if they were crying, you didn't have the time to go in there and sort of pat them. And that used to break my heart. I just sort of thought,
Yeah.
no, I can't do this. And I remember one day I went in and I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't supposed to stop the baby from, I just had to let them cry. But I actually went in and I picked the baby up and I gave the baby a cuddle. And I just sort of held the baby for a few minutes. And I said, look, I know it's stressful. I know you're finding it hard to go to sleep right now. But, we've given you your bottle and I'm giving you a cuddle now. And I'll give you another big squeeze. And then I'm going to lie you down and put you in your cot. And within 2 minutes, they were fast asleep. And that's
Wow.
what made me realize that you've got to give time to your baby. And that's also what triggered me into sort of getting out of childcare and doing something else to support, mothers. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that with babies. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I think it's so valuable to give your baby that opportunity and communicate with them. As I mentioned before, talking to your baby, telling them what you're doing is so important. Whether it's
Yeah.
massage, whether it's just in everyday life, just telling your baby and communicating with them. And when you pick them up in the morning, give them a cuddle and say, oh, did you have a nice sleep? And this is what we're going to do today. I'm going to change your nappy. Then we're going to go out for the day. Or do whatever you're going to do. You express, and that's helping your baby to build a language. It's helping your baby to build social skills, connections. It just has so many wonderful positive attributes to that.
Yeah. And you're also making me think of everything we do with our young babies. We're creating habits for a lifetime. And we don't realize that when we're brand new moms. And also, I'm not trying to put pressure on moms to make them feel like, oh my gosh, everything has to
No.
be down to the tiny detail. But no, I just want parents to know that those interactions matter, because you're setting yourself up for good habits forever. Because the way you're talking about communicating with babies, which I agree with totally, it's this respectful relationship. It's almost like you're treating them like they're equals. And I know there's a
Yeah, yeah.
parent-child relationship there where you set the boundaries and you're the one in charge, and babies and children need that. But we also need to change our approach to be more respectful, so that as they're growing, we don't adopt like an authoritarian, do as I say, some of these things that actually they're not they're not good for your relationship. And that's hard to change. It's easy to get into those bad habits. It's hard to just switch at some point when they're old enough to really know what's happening. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
all the things
yeah.
that we do are just setting up good habits. And one of those is being responsive. If you're someone who is trying to read your baby's body language and what do those cries mean, and you're in tune with them, then you have a lifetime ahead of you of that habit continuing on. Whereas if you are not listening to cries, there's a risk that you won't respond to them when they need you at other times. It's something that we can wire ourselves to do, which is not good.
It's really an interesting point that you've said there, because I think mums are great. Mums do a great job, and every mum is different and every baby is different. And I think every mum follows their own intuition, but you do follow what your parents did. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something. If your parents did a certain thing, it's likely that when you're a mum, you'll do that certain thing. And then there's nothing wrong with that. But giving yourself the opportunity to see what those triggers are and saying, okay, that's what my mum did, which I don't like. So let's try and think of a different way to do that.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned about different cries. So you asked me about podcasts. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Dunstan baby language,
I have.
but I actually did a podcast with the lady who does the Dunstan baby language, and it's I think it's called Deciphering Your Baby's Cries or something like that. And if your baby's hungry, if your baby's got colic, or if your baby's tired, there are certain cries that are for that particular. I mean, I know mums always are very intuitive. They get to know the baby's cries, but this was actually very interesting because the sounds, you could actually have a listen to it. You could actually hear the sounds of like, I won't tell you
Yeah.
what that one is. You can have a look, listen to the podcast to find out. But there are lots of I think she mentioned 3 different sounds that you can actually hear. And if you actually take the time to listen, you'll hear that they're either in pain, or they're hungry, or they're tired. And you mentioned crying, because we all know that babies cry. But if you actually listen to the different sounds, you can find out exactly what it is. And there's
That's amazing.
one cry where if you get to it straight away, then the baby, when they get louder, you'll think the baby's going, Mom, I've told you I'm hungry. I've told you I'm hungry. You're not listening to me. So the cry gets even louder.
Yeah. That's
So
so
it's
interesting.
have a listen to that one. I think it's called
Well,
Deciphering Your Baby's Cry.
okay. I'm excited. That's great. Well, let's circle around and talk about your work a little bit more. I don't know if you want to share some other stories or experiences you've had, or just some of the insight and tips you want to give to parents today. What would you like to talk about?
I think some of the experiences, I mentioned the one when I first
Yeah.
got into baby massage, but recently I've just been doing a few baby massage classes, just introduction classes with people, and parents have told me that they they really sort of appreciated what I taught them, and they appreciated me singing with the babies, because a lot of them had never realized that they could sing with their babies. They didn't think that babies would listen. And that's I've seen, as I mentioned to you before, about the grandmother. But when I actually teach mums to sing with their babies, I've sort of seen the babies singing with them. And
Yeah.
I really enjoy watching. I just sometimes stop doing what I'm doing to observe what the babies are doing, because it's just that part of it is something I really enjoy watching and observing. And
Yeah.
I think singing, the tip I will give to parents about 3 tips. Tip number 1 is always sing and communicate with your baby. It doesn't matter if you don't have a good singing voice, because I come from a childcare background, as I said, and I always used to sing to babies, and I was always singing out of tune. But that's me. It's to the babies. It's hearing your voice, and hearing that connection, and hearing that vibration is teaching them language. And tip number 2, always give your babies hugs. Hugs are important. If you want to cuddle your baby, if you feel you want to cuddle your baby to sleep, go with your gut feeling. And number 3, always follow your intuition. Go with how you feel about your baby and your gut feeling. Your intuition is so valuable. At the first time mum, you'll hear lots of other people telling you what to do or what not to do. But at the end of the day, go with what you truly feel is in your heart.
Yes, absolutely. Those are wonderful tips. Thank you so much for that.
I just think those are 3 tips are very valuable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you brought back memories for me with my second. I just remember sitting on the couch. I get to combine a couple of these here. Sitting on the couch with her before her naps, and we would start out by singing, and she was like facing me on my knees, and we were singing to each other, and I loved listening to her little
Mm.
voice. And she was obviously like one and a half, but she could remember the lyrics, and oh, it's the cutest memory
Mm.
ever. And then, she'd get sleepy and be in my arms and I'm snuggling her and holding her. And for me, those are like some of my favorite memories as a mom. And then I'd tuck her into bed and you know what? I couldn't wait till the next time. Just the cutest thing. I love it
Oh, it's just so beautiful.
when little children sing, but I also love it when you can sing to them and then they learn. They're going to learn over time. You got to start sometime. So of course it's a good thing to start when they're babies. Agreed.
Oh, definitely.